I never thought my love story would begin with a contract. My name is Rachel. I was 26 when I married a man I didn't know, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. My mom had just passed away. My dad was barely holding on to his job. Our house was 1 month away from foreclosure. And I was working 2 jobs, barely making enough to buy groceries, let alone save anyone. Then one day, a friend introduced me to a woman named Carol. She was elegant, serious, and spoke like she ran a business. And she did. Matchmaking, she called it, not for love, but for arrangements. There's a man named Daniel, she said. 32, quiet, successful, owns a tech company. He needs a wife, for legal reasons mostly. Green card, business image, nothing romantic. He'll pay off your debts, take care of your father's house in return. You marry him for 2 years. It sounded insane. But 2 days later, I was signing a marriage contract in an upscale office. My hands shook as I wrote my name. It didn't feel like love. It felt like survival. We met the night before the wedding in a hotel lobby. He wore a gray suit, no smile, no handshake, just a quiet, "Hi, I'm Daniel." He looked at me like I was a formality. I tried to smile. "So, we're getting married tomorrow." He nodded. "I appreciate you doing this." No romantic gestures. No excitement, just business. I noticed his eyes. They were tired, maybe guarded. Like he'd been through something I didn't know about. I wanted to ask questions. Who hurt him? Why this arrangement? But I stayed silent. "Do you have any rules?" I asked. "One," he said. "You can go anywhere in the house, just. Please don't ask about my past." I didn't say anything, but in that moment I knew this wasn't just a contract. This man was hiding something. The house was beautiful. Almost too beautiful. Modern kitchen, big windows, polished floors. It had everything, except warmth. Daniel didn't walk me through it. A woman named Jenna, his assistant, gave me a tour. "This is your room," she said politely, gesturing to a guest room on the 2nd floor. "Daniel's is across the hall. He keeps to himself." I unpacked my 1 suitcase. Half my clothes didn't even match this place. Everything felt too quiet, too cold, too controlled. There were no family photos on the walls, no books, no signs of life. Just a cold fireplace and a man I barely knew working late in the office downstairs. That night I ate dinner alone, leftovers from the fridge. I didn't know what his routine was. I didn't even know if he liked company. He didn't come up to say goodnight, and I didn't sleep well. The bed was soft, but my mind was loud. I kept hearing his words. "Don't ask about my past." Why not? What happened that made him hide his whole life? A week passed, then 2. Daniel came home late every night, ate dinner in silence, always in a dress shirt, always checking emails. It felt like living with a robot. He was polite, never cruel, but he never asked me how I was, never looked at me for more than a few seconds, never smiled. It was like I didn't exist outside the paper we signed. One night, I decided to try. I made dinner, something real. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, even salad. He walked in and paused at the table. "You cooked." I smiled nervously, thought we could try something normal. He sat down, ate quietly, then said, "You didn't have to do this." I wanted to. I replied. That's when he looked at me. Finally, for a second, his eyes softened, like he almost remembered what it was like to feel something. Then, just as quickly, the wall returned. "Thanks," he said, and walked away. I stood in the kitchen, staring at 2 untouched plates and a silence that felt heavier than ever. That night, I sat in bed and cried for the first time since the wedding. Not because I missed love, but because I was starting to feel invisible, and maybe, just maybe, this man I married had already lost something, or someone, so deep that he couldn't feel anything anymore. It was a Friday evening when something finally shifted. Daniel came home earlier than usual. No tie, no laptop in hand, just quiet footsteps and a tired look in his eyes. "I brought takeout," he said almost awkwardly. I blinked. "You did?" He set 2 brown bags on the kitchen counter, Chinese. "I didn't know what you liked, so I got a bit of everything." I didn't ask why. I just nodded and grabbed plates. We sat across from each other at the kitchen island, slowly eating dumplings and fried rice under the soft yellow light. And for the first time in weeks we talked. Nothing deep, just simple things. What music we liked. What we studied in college, what our worst job was. I learned he used to play guitar in high school, that he hated small talk, loved thunderstorms, and never ate seafood. I laughed once. He did too, barely. But it felt real. He looked up at me and said, "I know this hasn't been easy." I shrugged. "It's not exactly normal, but I'm trying." He nodded slowly, then said something I didn't expect. "You remind me of someone." I tilted my head. "Someone good or someone bad?" He hesitated. "Someone I lost." The room went quiet. I didn't press. I just said, "Maybe that's why we're both here." He looked at me, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't feel invisible. For a moment, we were just two broken people, sharing takeout in silence, and maybe not alone. The next day, I went looking for pens in the office drawer. I found something else, a photo hidden under a folder. Daniel and a woman. She had curly red hair and a smile that looked like it belonged in another world. They were standing on a beach, holding hands. There was something handwritten on the back. "To the only man who ever truly saw me, L." I stared at it for a long time. Was this the woman he lost? Why hadn't he told me her name? Why hide her picture? That night, I set the photo quietly back where I found it. I didn't ask, but I started to wonder if Daniel had really married me just for paperwork, or if he was trying to fill a space someone else had left behind. And for the first time since we married, I asked myself a new question. Was I falling for a man who wasn't ready to be loved again? It was after midnight when I heard it. Daniel was downstairs in the office. I had gotten up to grab some water when I paused by the staircase and heard him on the phone. His voice was low, like he didn't want to wake me, or like he didn't want me to hear. "No, she doesn't know anything yet." A pause. "I haven't told her about Lauren." Another pause, because this wasn't supposed to be real. I stood frozen on the stairs. Lauren, that must have been her name. The woman in the photograph. The woman who smiled so brightly on that beach. I leaned closer, trying to hear more. I didn't expect to feel anything. Daniel continued. This was supposed to be easy. Just sign the papers, live 2 years, and move on. He went silent for a moment, then softly added, "But she's not what I expected." My heart beat louder than his words. He was talking about me. I hurried back to my room, barely breathing. My chest felt tight, my hands shaky. I wasn't supposed to hear any of that, but I had, and now everything had changed. The next morning, I couldn't look at him the same way. I kept hearing her name, Lauren. Was she his wife, his fiancée? What had happened to her? Was that why he was so closed off, so afraid of connection? He walked into the kitchen like everything was normal. "Morning, morning." I replied, trying to act casual. He poured coffee. I watched his hands, strong, still, controlled. Finally, I said, "Who was Lauren?" He froze. The mug hovered midair. "You went through my things." "No," I said. "I overheard you last night on the phone." A long silence followed. He set the mug down, slowly, carefully. "She was my wife," he said. I nodded, afraid to say more. "She died 2 years ago. Car accident. We'd just bought a house. We were trying for a baby." His voice cracked. "Just for a second. She was everything," he whispered. "I'm sorry," I said softly. He looked at me. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want this marriage to get complicated. I needed the paperwork. You needed the money. That's what this was. But it's not, is it?" I asked. He looked away. "I didn't expect you to matter," he said, "but you do." That broke me more than I expected, because part of me had started to care too. It arrived in a simple white envelope, tucked beneath the morning mail. No return address, just my name. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "If you're reading this, it means he let you in. I hope you're different from me. I hope he's different too. If he's still building walls, break them gently. And if he still sleeps with the lights off and the door locked, just know it's not you. It was never you." My heart stopped. Lauren, I read the letter again and again. It wasn't angry. It wasn't jealous. It was sad, gentle, like a warning wrapped in kindness. I put it back in the envelope and walked into the living room where Daniel sat reading the news on his tablet. "You should have told me about this," I said quietly, holding out the letter. He looked at it and sighed, not surprised, not angry, just heavy. "I found it after she passed," he said, "in a journal. She must have written it in the hospital, after one of our fights." What did she mean by, "if he still sleeps with the lights off"? He didn't answer right away. Then finally, he said, "Because I wasn't always a good husband." That silence between us stretched and grew sharp. "Painful," he added. "I tried to save her, from the depression, from everything, but I was cold. I shut down. I thought shutting down made me strong. And now," I asked. He looked at me, his voice barely a whisper. "Now, I just don't want to fail again." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking of all the reasons I should leave. This wasn't love, not the way I imagined it. It was broken, complicated, scarred, but so was I. I came into this arrangement out of desperation, and somewhere along the way, I found something unexpected. Not romance, not a perfect man, but honesty, vulnerability, realness. I could walk away, collect the check, and call it survival. Or I could stay and see what it meant to build something real from two people who didn't believe in love anymore. The next morning, Daniel came into the kitchen looking nervous. "I understand if you want out," he said quietly. "No one would blame you." I walked over, stood in front of him, and then I said the one thing neither of us expected. "I'm not here because I have to be anymore. I'm here because I choose to be." He blinked. The wall cracked just slightly. We weren't healed. We weren't whole, but maybe we could try together. We didn't fall in love overnight. There were no magical kisses in the rain, no tearful confessions by candlelight. Just slow, quiet mornings, honest conversations, shared coffee cups, and new beginnings. Daniel started leaving his office door open. I started reading in the living room instead of hiding in my room. Sometimes we sat in silence, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It felt like breathing. He showed me the garden Lauren used to plant, the dried flowers, the empty soil. She loved daisies. He said once, almost smiling. So I planted some, and one morning he brought me breakfast, burnt toast and cold eggs. But it was the first time he tried. He apologized for the walls he built. I apologized for the ones I almost built in return. There were still hard days, but now we faced them together. A year passed. People stopped calling it an arrangement. We stopped calling it anything at all. It just became what it was, ours. One day Daniel asked, "Do you ever regret it?" I thought of the girl who signed papers for survival, who entered a stranger's house with nothing but a suitcase and 1,000 questions. I thought of the silence, the heartbreak, the letter from a woman who knew love wasn't always soft or easy, and I smiled. "No," I said, "because this is where my life truly began."